Journal Radio. Presented by OnX. Know where you stand with OnX.
That's a new personal best pike here.
Now here's your host, Bret Amundson.
That's right. Welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in on this radio station on the Sporting Journal Radio Network by downloading the podcast, or maybe you're watching this on YouTube, Facebook, Rumble, Instagram, and more. Thank you very much. We got so much to get to this week, ladies and gentlemen. Jay Siemens is going to be joining us. There may be nobody bigger in the outdoor space on YouTube right now than Jay Siemens, and he's going to talk about how he got started, what he's got planned. He's a part of the Meat Eater crew now. We'll find out how that happened. And his first guide job when he was 15, you guys, he sunk a boat. So I'm going to ask him that story. Yeah, coming up a little bit later in the show. That's Dan Amundson and David Eckhardt over there, by the way. Guys, how you doing?
Hey, doing well.
Doing good.
David, you ever sink a boat before?
No, but I've come close with decoys in a small John boat.
You were overloading the boat with decoys?
Yeah, there was about 4 inches left of the gunnel before it came over.
Well, there's still time.
Yeah, never say never.
We'll work on that for you. The Deer and Turkey Classic is back at Canterbury Park in Shakopee, March 11th, 12th, and 13th. Eric Meyer is going to join us. So it's a long-running show. Outdoor News owned it for a couple of years. And then Eric Meyer, we didn't know about this, but he's got an announcement to make about that show. Maybe he's made it publicly. We haven't seen it, but he's going to make an announcement about the ownership of that show and talk about Lee and Tiffany are going to be there, and Pat Nicole Reeve, Melissa Bachman, and then I'll be there too on Saturday, March 12th from 1 to 3. Tiny knocked a bone underneath this table over here, and it's just driving her crazy that she can't get it. Anyway, so Dan, why don't you talk about the sponsors? I'm going to help Tiny get this bone. We also have Joe Henry coming up this week too for a March fishing report up from Lake of the Woods.
All right. Well, our sponsors this week are OnX. Get the OnX Hunt app today. Know where you stand with OnX. Camp Grayling. Catch the Grand Slam. Trophy pike, lake trout, grayling, and walleye. Fish Camp Grayling this summer. Ottertail Lakes Country. Find your inner otter at ottertaillakescountry.com. Haybale Heights Campground and Resort on Devil's Lake. Chase perch and walleyes out of a heated snow bear. Learn more at haybaleHeights.com. Lake of the Woods Tourism. The walleye capital is Lake of the Woods. Plan a trip to ice fish walleyes in March at lakeofthewoodsmn.com. Prairie Sportsman, the new season is underway. Watch episodes anytime at the Prairie Sportsman YouTube channel or check your TV guide. The Minnesota Deer and Turkey Classic is March 11th through the 13th at Canterbury Park in Shakopee. Lots of guest appearances, seminars, and more. The Midwest Wild Sheep Foundation is having their banquet March 25th and 26th. Minneapolis Marriott and Southwest are giving away a doll sheep hunt. Learn more at MidwestWildSheep.com. And we're still late on this, but Mid-Migration Outfitters now booking spring snow goose hunts. Limited dates still available. Learn more at MidMigrationOutfitters.com.
That's all right. Thank you to our sponsors, and we've got some more sponsors to thank because we got a big party. We want to thank not only our sponsors but also our listeners. So you're invited to join us at Riverbend Resort on the Rainy River. We're going to be out there spring fishing for big walleyes and big sturgeon. We're heading up April 4th, and then we're going to have a 2-day fishing tournament, the 5th and the 6th, and that's going to be through Fish Donkey. So if you want to participate, it's open to anybody that's going to be fishing the river at that time too. So April 5th and 6th, download the fish. Just take that bone away from her. That might solve a lot of problems for us right now. April 5th and 6th, download the Fish Donkey app and look for the SJR 500 on the Rainy River coming up in early April. You can find out more information at sportingjournalradio.com. And I want to thank Riverbend Resort, of course, for that. Also, Smith's Consumer Products. They make all these fillet knives, electric fillet knives. They're a sponsor on that fishing tournament. We're going to be giving away some electric fillet knives and some really cool knives that Smith's has. Also, Live Target. We got some of those awesome crankbaits from Live Target that we're going to be giving away. DRC Calls. They're going to do some custom engraved DRC goose calls and duck calls as part of the contest. And then Yamaha is a part of it too with their Right Waters. Now, Yamaha's Right Waters reinforces Yamaha's long-standing dedication to preserving the natural resources we have today so that our customers can continue to enjoy them tomorrow. They're committed to focusing efforts towards sustainability from our factory floors to the great outdoors. And they do this through marine stewardship, manufacturing, and product responsibility. And they understand that without looking to the future for sustainability, our way of lives could change forever. You can find out more at yamahaboats.com, or we have it linked on the SJR Rainy River 500 page at sportingjournalradio.com. Good on you, Yamaha. That's pretty cool. You know, that's what we do here. I fish and always will. I hunt and always will. And what that means is not only do we want to use this show to give you tips and tricks and ideas and gear that'll make you more successful in the field or on the water, but we also want to fight for our rights as hunters and anglers for the future. We want to make sure that our kids, your kids, their kids have the right to go out and enjoy the great outdoors the way we do as well. So I hunt and always will. I fish and always will. Now, Prairie Sportsman, the TV show, we're off for a couple of weeks for fundraising on Pioneer PBS, but you can still watch episodes probably on your local PBS station, wherever you're watching this. We'll be back with brand new episodes on Pioneer March 20th with an episode we filmed in Ely. And then also now new on our YouTube channel, we just put this out this week. We've got a new video from our stop in Florida at Bienville with Shimano. We spent a couple hours in the boat with Alex Davis. Here is another video with him talking about the brand new World Minnow from Shimano.
Right now, just because of the heavy cover, I swim a jig on braid. I also swim a jig on fluorocarbon, but braid just due to the heavy cover and grass. And it's a 7.2 medium heavy Corrado rod. I throw that on a 150 Corrado MGL, and I throw it on 50-pound Max Quattro. The reason I like the Max Quattro is I can actually get 50-pound strength and 40-pound diameter. So 40-pound just a little easier to cast. It's a little smaller, so it's just easier to roll cast, put it where I want, put distance, but it still has the strength of 50-pound. I never fear a fish is gonna own me. If I hook him, he's coming in this boat every time, so that's why I use braid with a swim jig. Hooks it right through the jaw. They ain't never coming off. I mean, he could swim around for a month of Sundays.
Alex Davis, he's from Gunnersville, Alabama. And he's a pro fisherman down there and fishing guide. You can see his whole video. He breaks down a bunch more gear and tactics and tips as we fished around that lake on the Bienville Outdoors Plantation down in Florida. Find it now on the Sporting Journal Radio YouTube channel. So that's one thing. So we're a radio show, right? We got our 500th show coming up here in a few weeks. But we like to say we're more than just a radio show now. As you can see, it's like watching, we like to think it's like watching a TV show or a video podcast or whatever you want to call it. So we want to bring you all this video content. With this also allows us to share video content that you send to us. So we got this video sent to us from Dan Garrettschlager. This is what rush hour looks like when you're on a backwoods northern Minnesota road in the winter. So this guy is hauling logs. So he's working in the timber industry up in northern Minnesota, and he's got a big rig full of timber there, and there's just a wolf going for a little jog in front of him. So you'll see that a lot up in northern Minnesota when the snow gets real deep. The animals obviously are going to use the easiest routes possible, and a lot of times that's roads. So I'm not going to say this is a common sight in northern Minnesota, but you see deer and other wildlife a lot of times. Fox you'll see on the road, but it's not a wolf. Just keeps looking back like, is this guy ever going to pass me? Just tailgating me.
It's getting more common with the wolves too.
Well, as the population grows, you're definitely going to see them more and more. All right, for sending that to us, we're going to send you some Sporting Journal radio gear. You'll get $25 to spend in our store on hats, hoodies, mugs, and more. Go to sportingjournalradio.com and click on store, and you can also send us your videos, and we'll hook you up with some free stuff as well too. David, do you see many wolves out there in southwestern Minnesota?
I can't say that I've ever seen a wolf out there.
Probably a lot of coyotes.
A lot of coyotes, a fox every now and then, but never a wolf.
Yeah. Well, what about deer? Have you been seeing much for deer this year?
I've been seeing a lot of deer this winter out, picking for food out in the fields and gathered up by the roads where it's easy to walk. So you got to watch out driving at dusk. Yeah. Especially in some areas.
What about, do you shed hunt at all? Do you go out looking for sheds?
I try to, if I have time. And I usually have time. But no, I try and get out. I wish I was out there today. It's a beautiful day outside.
Yeah, we finally have some nice weather for being out and about. I got lucky. Tanya just brought one to my door one day.
Yeah, that's pretty lucky.
She was just outside running around and came running up the door with a shed in her mouth, which is always nice. But it's still kind of fishing season. The end of the fishing season is wrapping up, and with this warmer weather, a lot of times I'll if I'm not fishing out of someone's house or if I don't have my portable, it's kind of fun to drive around and just fish from the truck. Have you been doing that a lot lately?
Yeah, the last couple weeks, if the weather's been right and there hasn't been too much snow on the lakes, yeah, I mostly fish out of my truck. You're able to stay mobile. If the fishing slows down after half an hour, you can go 100 yards or a half a mile and try and find some new fish.
That's a walleye you caught out of your truck?
Yeah, that was a 28 and a half.
Jeez, you don't see that very often.
No, that was pretty crazy.
Can you tell me exactly, you don't have to do this on the show, but can you tell me exactly where you caught that?
I can.
That'd be great. Was that
Dan's been there.
You've been there? Was that recent?
No, that was 5-6 years ago.
Oh, okay. But you guys probably just fished it again recently, I bet.
Yeah.
I gotcha.
Didn't catch any walleyes there either.
No. Well, you guys were actually, because you fished out of a house too with an underwater camera. You guys were marking walleyes or seeing walleyes on the camera, but you weren't getting them.
Correct. They were not hungry. It seemed like.
Oh, that was during the day too.
Yeah.
That was kind of right at getting that low light hours. Yeah, I was getting down there to the evening time when I'd expect them to eat, but just kept on cruising.
Well, the snow goose season is right around the corner, and so is the show season. We're going to talk about the Minnesota Deer and Turkey Classic with Eric Meyer when we come back. Ice fishing season is here. This winter, plan a trip to Devil's Lake, North Dakota. Not only will you have the chance to catch their legendary perch, but this year, Haybale Heights has been catching big walleye after big walleye, and they're doing it from a mobile, comfortable snow bear. No matter how cold it is outside, you're warm and toasty on the inside. Learn more and book a trip today at haybaleheights.com. That's haybaleheights.com. Well, it's finally back again. We're getting back into show season. I feel like we just hit the pause button on the show seasons there for a while, and now they're finally getting fired back up, and we're happy to be a part of the Outdoor News Deer and Turkey Classic. It's coming up March 11th, 12th, and 13th. It's at Canterbury Park in Shakopee, and to tell us more about it, Eric Meyer's with us from Outdoor News. Eric, how you doing?
Great. How are you guys?
Thanks for being on the show here once again. I feel like the last 2 years were just kind of a blur, and the last show that I was a part of was the Deer and Turkey Classic in Shakopee, and then everything kind of went south for everybody there for about 2 years. But we're finally back. You got to be excited to be having the show again this year.
Yeah, it's going to be great. It's been a long wait since that 2020 event and having to shut it down Friday night. We had just moved it to a new facility, Canterbury Park. We had bumped it up by 40 exhibitors from the last facility and had some really great seminar speakers. We had Michael Waddell there. But this upcoming show, we have Lee and Tiffany and Pat and Nicole and Melissa Bachman headlining, so we have a great lineup.
Yep. It's hard to go wrong with all those names that you just mentioned. And if I can just go back, I don't want to dwell on the beginning of the pandemic by any means, but if I just want to go back to that day, because I was there, and I was there at the same time as Michael Waddell. We were both standing at the Outdoor News booth, and my phone vibrated, and I got this message that Governor Walz was starting to shut things down. And I remember watching it all transpire, and I think I watched your hair get more gray. I think I watched gray hairs form on your head that day, because that had to have been a stressful moment, having that happen literally while you had this event going on.
Yeah, it all started Wednesday with all the bulk guys moving in. We had Rudy Gobert and Tom Hanks got it on Wednesday, and it just started. I could tell things weren't going in the right direction, and tried to stay positive. And then Friday came, and we were watching the auto show downtown, and they shut it down. And then we got ordered to shut our show down Friday evening, and I had to go around to all the exhibitors and break them the news, and it was a sad day, but we got through it, and we're back for another year, and things are looking good. I'm pretty much sold out on booth space.
Oh, perfect.
And have some giant bucks on the way for display from across the state. So things are looking good.
I like it at Canterbury Park there in Shakopee. You know, I've been to the event at a couple of the different locations, the fairgrounds. Canterbury Park was an interesting location because you walk by a casino while you're walking around while you're in there. But it seems like every time you go around a corner, there's another giant rack staring at you. I mean, some of the antlers that you see on display there are crazy, Eric.
Yeah, we have, being I work for Outdoor News. I'm the photo manager, and we get a lot of the bucks from across the state entered into our best buck contest. And I reach out to the guys that shoot the bigger bucks to invite them to the show. And I probably sent out 400 invitations, and hopefully we get at least half of those guys coming in. Generally, we have 200 on display for the weekend, and we've had up to 350 brought in for measuring. We have the Minnesota official measures there doing all the measuring. So it's a great gathering of Minnesota's deer hunters, and it's just it's kind of a grassroots show. All these guys from across the state are getting together to look at the fruits of their labor in the field, and the bucks seem to be getting bigger too. Yeah, well, and we did a story on the antler scoring there for Prairie Sportsman when we were there 2 years ago, and you can watch that on YouTube, prairiesportsman.org, and see a little bit more about what goes into that whole process. Because I can't remember if you said it or not, but how many antlers or how many sets of antlers normally come in? How many racks normally come in? It's free. You can bring your antlers in if they've never been scored before. You can get them scored there at this event. How many do you think you get to come in and do that? Well, our best outing, we had around 350 entries, and wow. 200. I have a promotion that if you bring your buck in Friday or your antlers, or it could be a bear skull or moose sheds or elk rack, it's got to be Minnesota, and fair chase, and then you bring it in and you leave it for the weekend, and I have a drawing for about 40 prizes. One's a gearhead compound bow worth a couple $1,000s, and so you got a pretty good shot of winning something. And so we're hoping for that kind of turnout again this year. So it's actually entry fee. If you bring a rack in, entry fee is $15 for admission, and that includes one antler scoring. If you bring more than one antler in, it's $5 per antler. Okay. But what's happened in the past is we've got guys will come in with a box of sheds, and we just don't have time to do all of them. So it's if you're willing to pay for it, they'll do it. But we just try to get our customers to bring in one set is good. If they bring a rack and then a shed, that's fine. We're just we only have so much time to pull this off, and we got like 25 measures, and they're pretty fast, but that's how we set it up this time around. Sure. And you're going to have people there doing some bear hunting and turkey hunting seminars, and also people, if you want to buy or sell some hunting land, you're going to have some experts there that'll help you with that as well? Yeah, we have a number of real estate people, all the major hitters in the market. You get your whitetail properties, and then we have a lot of good outfitters. My goal is to have a whitetail outfitter from every state and province, and to cover all 6 species of the wild turkey, the World Slam, which we have on display. So it's just to cover our basis, and if somebody's interested in going, turkey hunting down to the Yucatan, we'd have an outfitter. Right now, I don't have one from Yucatan, but working on it. But we have about 160 exhibitors right now.
Well, you mentioned that it's kind of a grassroots show, and it is kind of a legendary show here in Minnesota. Outdoor News has owned it for a few years, but this show started, I mean, the Deer Classic goes way back, right?
Yeah. So in 1982, I believe, it's been 38 years, and Hugh Price started it up back in the early 80s, and then another outfit had it for like 3 years, and they moved it to a facility that was a third of the size of the one it was in, downsizing it. I was working the Outdoor News booth at a double booth there, and we just couldn't even fit the attendees in the facility, so that didn't work out. So my father, Glenn Meyer, the publisher of Outdoor News, we decided that we'd bring it back to the Canterbury Park, and we did that for 5 years, and then after the pandemic, I actually acquired the show. I'm sole owner of the Deer Classic at this point. And,
oh, wow.
Outdoor News isn't actually titled on it anymore. I just call it the Minnesota Deer and Turkey Classic, and I'm on my own on this go
Okay,
around.
well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. All right. Well, and I was there. I had a booth at that when it was in that smaller facility there too, up in Blaine, and it got real crowded, and there were a couple of times where people couldn't even move. It was just so jam packed in there. So having it at Canterbury is nice. I feel like it just keeps going and going when you walk around it at Canterbury. There's just a lot more space and a lot more room to kind of maneuver around and see some of the cool things there. All right. Well, Eric, if people want to learn a little bit more about, we should mention I'm going to be there too. Saturday, March 12th from 1 to 3 p.m. I'll be there. People can come and, I don't know, high five. I'll give out high fives or something. Say hi. But
we'll have you set up in the entryway there by the Outdoor News booth, so you'll be easy to find.
Perfect. Well, stop by and say hi. And if people want to learn more about this event, admission prices, admission times, and location and all that good stuff, where should they go?
They can go to mndeerclassic.com. And we're 1 to 9 on Friday, 9 to 5 Saturday, 10 to 5 or 9 to 7 on Saturday. Sorry about that.
It's all right.
10 to 5 Sunday. And then we open up a couple hours early each day for the guys to register their antlers. You can't get into the show, but you can get to the antler office and register your antlers so they can get started on those. But go to our website, and you'll find all the info you need.
There you go, mndeerclassic.com. Eric Meyer, thanks for the time today on the show. Good luck with the event.
Thank you, and we'll see you down there.
Don't miss the 2022 Minnesota Deer and Turkey Classic at its new location at Canterbury Park in Shakopee, March 11th through the 13th. This year's Classic features top hunting celebrities like Driven TV's Pat Nicole Reeve, Lee and Tiffany Lakoski of the Crush TV, and Melissa Bachman. Get your antlers scored, view more than 300 antler entries, and see the latest hunting products, plus a great lineup of lodges and outfitters. For complete details on the 2022 Deer and Turkey Classic, visit mndeerclassic.com.
All right, we cannot wait for spring on the Rainy River to get here. I mean, there's definitely some more ice fishing opportunities around the state. Don't forget, you got to get your new licenses if you're going to be out there fishing now. Once March 1st hit, we need new fishing licenses in the state of Minnesota. But we're looking forward to April because of our 500th show party up on the Rainy River. We'll be at Riverbend Resort. We've got a fish donkey tournament. You can find out all the details at sportingjournalradio.com. And to find out what is going on up at Lake of the Woods right now, Joe Henry is going to join us from Lake of the Woods Tourism. Joe, how you doing?
Bret, 500 shows. You don't look that old.
Yeah, fine. Well, thankfully we do one every day, so it's only been 500 days. We're only 500 days old. No, it's weekly, so 500 shows. That'll be about 10 years that we've been doing this.
That's
show.
Awesome.
And you've
That's
been a part
incredible.
of it for a long time.
It's a super good feat, man.
Yeah, thank you very much. We appreciate you being a part of it, and what a better place than Lake of the Woods to celebrate. And we've had a lot of questions about this Rainy River fishing tournament. A lot of people have been curious about it. The resort was getting a bunch of phone calls. They sent me messages like, "Hey, should we have these guys call you? Because our phone won't stop ringing. I'm like, yeah, you can direct them to me or direct them to the website. And we got a bunch of prizes that we're going to give away. It's going to be a 2-day fishing tournament, April 5th and 6th on the Rainy River. Now, Joe, you've guaranteed me that ice will be off the Rainy River by then, and we'll be catching giant walleyes. So I appreciate that.
Well, number one, I haven't guaranteed anything. And number two, if I guaranteed that ice is going to be off the Rainy River, it could be right below the dam at International Falls. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, well, that's the nice thing. You've got, 42 miles of river there?
Yeah, we have from when you take a look at the mouth of the Rainy River all the way up to Birchdale, there's 42 miles of navigable Rainy River. And, the way that works is when ice starts going off the river, the open water progresses from the east and moves its way to the west. So we literally, at Lake of the Woods Tourism, track every single day where that open water line is, because people want to know where they can get their boats in. And of course, normally the first access that has access for bigger boats is going to be Nelson Park and Birchdale. And then from there, there's different boat accesses that'll open up. And well, I tell you, if you hit it right, that spring fishing can be not only lots of fish, but also you have a chance at a fish of a walleye of a lifetime. Those fish are up there spawning. It's catch and release only on the Rainy River and 4 Mile Bay from March 1 all the way through April 14th. And but I'll tell you, it's just enjoyable. Most people, Brett, that time of year in that open water will be jigging. Some of them are using big plastics. Some will be pitching them towards shore and working them back slow. Others will be, kind of going real slow up current and then drifting back down. Some will be using jigs and shiners. So it just kind of depends. Hey, there'll be some that'll be pulling crankbaits in that ice cold water. And believe it or not, pulling crankbaits really slow against that current, boy, that can be a way to cover a lot of water. And those big walleyes, hey, that's a minnow to them. They're going to be eating them up.
Yeah, well, we've been watching all the shows we can find on YouTube for spring fishing on the Rainy River. There was Prairie Sportsman we filmed up there a couple of times in the spring. We watched the Next Bite episode where they just smashed big walleyes. I think we saw a Jay Siemens video from the Rainy River. So we were pretty pumped about it, but we don't want to get ahead of ourselves because there's a lot of ice fishing time left up there, isn't there?
Well, I tell you, and it's funny because when you listen to some of the metro media, the big TV stations and newspapers, they talk about how fish houses have to be off, at the end of February in Minnesota. Well, that's true for some parts of Minnesota, but up at Lake of the Woods, we're border water with Canada, so we get extended seasons. We can have fish houses overnight on the ice through March 31st, so it's still game on for a whole nother month. Our resorts have houses out, they have sleeper fish houses out. We're still ice fishing. We got 3 feet of ice. I mean, it's winter up there, and the pike season on Lake of the Woods never closes. The walleye and saugers go through April 14th, so that's an extended season. Your perch and your tulibies and your eel pout, I mean, those are all open continuous. So there's a lot of fishing to be had up at Lake of the Woods right now. I'll tell you what, here's the other thing. We've had more of a traditional winter this year. That means that we got over 3 feet of ice in many locations. We also have a lot of snow.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what that snow does. When we start getting that warm March sun, that snow will deflect those sun rays away from that ice, and that's all that snow has to melt. In the meantime, while that's melting, that's deflecting those sun rays. That gives that ice even more time to hang on. So, we easily could be doing some ice fishing, especially for some of the pike anglers. We could be doing some ice fishing into April this year.
Well, that's what a lot of people get excited. I feel like Lake of the Woods and the Rainy River, there's almost stages throughout the year of what people target up there. I mean, it's always walleyes most of the time, but this time of year, people really start to get excited about those pike up there with like tip-ups or quick strike rigs, right?
Well, and I'll tell you, everybody talks about, using the quick strike rigs and the tip-ups, like you say, in March, and that's the most popular time people target pike. What's happening is pike don't school, but they do get congregated in some areas because they're adjacent to their spawning areas. They call that a pre-spawn area. Not only that, the pike just instinctively are putting on the feed bags because they're going to be spawning soon and they're going to need all that energy. So they're eating, they get congregated and putting down great big sucker minnows or frozen tulibies or whatever the case might be on a quick strike rig, which, for people that don't know, they don't tip up fish. all a quick strike rig is a leader material that comes down and Y's off into two trebles. You hook one treble just in front of the tail. You hook another treble just in front of the head. Now your bait, whether it's alive or dead, it will sit horizontal in the water and get a tip up. The other thing is, when a big pike comes and hits that thing, you don't have to let them take it and take it and take it, trying to figure out when to set that hook. If they hit that quick strike rig, virtually you can set the hook right away because you got a treble hook both in the front and back end of that minnow. So it's a very a good conservation measure for catching pike too. I will say that up at Lake of the Woods, it is truly a world-class pike situation. So there's a good chance if you go pike fishing, you're going to catch some big pike. Make sure you're ready for them. Make sure that you take good care of those big pikes so they can get back and reproduce. Have your needle nose ready to go. Have a jaw spreaders ready to go. Have your camera ready to go. Have your tape to measure them ready to go. Just make sure that you're ready to roll. I know some anglers, they'll actually carry a bucket. When they run for a flag, they'll carry a bucket with them that has all those tools in there so that they're ready to take some nice pictures and get that pike back living again.
Joe, you're not in your office right now.
No, I'm not. Actually, I'm heading to the Explore Minnesota Tourism Annual Conference this week down in the Twin Cities, and it's an opportunity that the tourism industry gets together with a lot of different stakeholders, and we got some guest speakers, we got some education, we got networking going on. Bret, one of our guest speakers is going to be, I don't know if you ever heard of the name of PJ Fleck. He happens to be the head football coach for the Minnesota Gophers. He brings a lot of energy, and it's also an opportunity just to, a lot of stuff goes behind the scenes of running a destination marketing organization like Lake of the Woods Tourism, and we want to make sure that we're on the cutting edge doing the best we can.
Do you suppose if he came up to the Rainy River to do some fishing, he'd be in a rowboat, you think?
Well, I'll tell you what, if he's going to come up in a rowboat, he's got a lot of energy. I'd rather bring him up in August when we control it about 5 miles an hour.
There you go. All right, Joe, well, if people want to learn more about fishing the Rainy this spring, or maybe getting some late ice fishing in up at Lake of the Woods and the Rainy River and the Angle, where should they go for more info?
You know what? Up to date stuff on our Facebook page at Lake of the Woods Tourism or Instagram. Otherwise, it's our website, and that is lakeofthewoodsmn.com.
All right. Thank you, Joe and Eric, and thank you. Stick around because Jay Siemens is coming up next. David, if you had the chance to ask Jay Siemens a few questions, what would you ask him about?
I'd ask him about catching peacock bass in the Amazon. That sounds like a really good time.
He filmed a film. He made a film down there that you can see on his YouTube channel. Him and his wife went down there. And I'll tell you what, I watched it, and it was not anything like what I expected. I'm going to ask him all kinds of questions about it because he stayed on this boat. It's like I'll call it a houseboat. And then he went inside and showed the inside, and it's unbelievable. Like this is a very nice trip, accommodations that he went on down there, and they caught some peacock bass. We'll ask him about that experience and more when we come back.
Come ice fish the famous waters of Minnesota's Lake of the Woods, the walleye capital of the world. Experience full-service resorts featuring heated fish houses, ice transportation, meal plans, and sleeper house options. From the Northwest Angle to the South Shore, Rainy River and Baudette, the Midwest's #1 ice fishing destination. Walleye, sauger, perch, and northern pike. Minnesota's Lake of the Woods, best fishing anywhere. For more information, log on to lakeofthewoodsmn.com.
All right, our next guest is a busy guy, not just from doing various other podcasts in addition to ours, but he's continuing to bring us high-quality content on his YouTube channel and now working with Meat Eater. It's Jay Siemens. He joins us on the show. Jay, thanks for taking time out and joining us here today.
Thanks, guys.
Congrats on the Meat Eater partnership, first of all. That's awesome.
That kind of just came out of the blue, like... My wife and I started Meat Eater, started watching it on Netflix, I don't know, maybe 2 years ago, and she became just obsessed with it, watching it faster than I could, just binge watching it, and it kind of got her into outdoor, hunting shows and that sort of stuff. So it was pretty cool when all of a sudden I got an email from them, and she's like, "No, you're joking." I'm like, "No, it's I don't know, it's social media, right? Anyone can see any video, so you never know who's watching something when you put it on YouTube, right?" And apparently someone from Meat Eater was watching, so yeah.
That's crazy. So you just got an email one day, and they're like, "Hey,
I got an email.
This is Meat Eater. We want you to do some stuff for us."
That's basically what it was, and I was just like, "Okay, well, I'll believe." I feel like I've had enough instances where I've had those exciting, opportunities present themselves, and then something falls through. Like I've had trips before. It's like, hey, Jay, we really want you to come film this trip, and then it's like things fall through at the last minute. So until it's actually happening, I really don't. I try not to get too excited about those things, but it did actually happen, and it's just a cool crew to be working with, and they're doing big things in the outdoor world.
Well, Meat Eater's like a new media juggernaut, right? Like it's been interesting to watch because you had the old traditional media, companies like the Lindners and InFish and the Outdoor Sportsman Group. And then all of a sudden just Meat Eater comes out. Obviously they had some help from Netflix, but they just kind of came out of nowhere. And now they've got all these podcasts. They got all these YouTube shows. They're just becoming kind of this outdoor media empire out there.
Yeah, I think the Fisherman is a good parallel to draw because, they and I think so many people have viewed Meat Eater as just Steven Rinella for the longest time, and that's I think the biggest thing that they were trying to not combat, because we know like Steve's he's the man. He's got just a massive amount of talent. Yeah. But Meat Eater is so much bigger than just Steve now, because they brought the amount of writing talent they have. Like that's where they definitely push into, is a lot of their writers. If you look on their website, the amount of written content they have is it's exceptional. So it's cool. And yeah.
Well, I was just going to say, I think that's what makes Steve Rinella so good at his job, is he comes from that writer background. A good writer that can also translate to other media like broadcast media, like television. That's just going to make a host that's more well-versed in, communicating and having a background, a knowledgeable background in the outdoors. I think that's really helped him and his company out. Oh yeah. The way that he can articulate hunting to people that don't hunt. And that's a special skill for sure. Storytelling, man. And now the Canadian angle. Tell us about the Canadian angle and what people can expect from it. Yeah. So, Meat Eater was just, they're hoping to do more fishing stuff because, they are hunting focused. They said, hey, Jay, do you want to help, build out the fishing side a little bit more? And so I kind of brainstormed some episode ideas, and they were like, well, we need to come up with a name. So, kind of a play on words with angle. Most of the episodes are filmed in Canada, so Canadian angle. It kind of just worked out. Obviously, there's a place called the Northwest Angle as well on Lake of the Woods, which was a third play on words that I wasn't really even expecting. But something that got brought up there. So I just finished the second season. We did one open water season that I think went well. And they said, hey, Jay, can you do an ice fishing season? I'm like, okay, yeah, let's film it this winter and we'll put it up next winter. And they're like, can you film it this winter and we'll put it up in January? And I'm just like, okay, well, we'll try. So that was frantic to do it. I'm glad I did it, because it was a cool opportunity. And it worked out, but it was like that consumed a lot of my December, January, and it's been pretty frantic. So to get those seasons done, it was cool, and to just share it with a different audience, because I don't know, it's like and it's also like I'm a little bit nervous too putting stuff on YouTube, because I feel like everyone is there to watch Steve Rinella, and they're not necessarily there to see me. So it's like, as much as you shouldn't do it, you're always reading the comments and you're like, hey, what is someone going to think of this? But at the end of the day, it's as a creative, as a photographer, videographer, it's what I like to make, what I'm passionate about. And I think it was well received. So yeah, it sounds like there'll probably be a third season. So nice. I'm excited about that. That's awesome, dude. Yeah. That's, congratulations. Thank you. Is it like, how much direction, like how much input are they having? Are they just saying, hey man, this is kind of what we're looking for, go do your thing? Is it kind of an extension of what we see? Are you trying to make it an extension of what you're doing already? Just maybe, trying to just kind of continuing to improve on your craft, or or do they have some ideas for you? No. And that's probably like my favorite part is I'm always open to criticism and critique and like change the stuff. But as a videographer, and I used to do, the corporate stuff more, the worst thing when you do a video is like you create a video and they're like, hey, Jay, we got 18 changes for you to make. And you go back and forth. And the thing about what I do now and with YouTube is I make the video, I click upload, and I don't really have to answer to anybody, which is nice. Like not that I post controversial stuff, but it's just like, it's nice to be like, yep,
I like the song choice. I like where that transition happened. I'm going to upload it. And of the 8 episodes I've sent to Meat Eater, they haven't had any changes, no critiques, which, from my standpoint, it makes it easier for me to keep creating, because sometimes those just turn into hurdles after a while. And as a creative, you want to create how you want to create. And you don't always want to be micromanaged. And I've never felt that with Meat Eater. They've been like, yep, they're all good to go. And that's cool. I like that. So, I mean, I take my style and maybe I try to like, not mimic, but maybe just make sure it's a little more of like fits into the Meat Eater style. Like if I was going to use more of an electronic, I don't want to say dubstep. I don't really use that much dubstep music, but like an electronic type song, I might swap it out for more of an acoustic, like folky song for the Meat Eater audience. Cause that's what I visualize a little bit more. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun and just connecting with the crew. And finally I was just in Devil's Lake early January and got to meet with a bunch of I got to meet Steve finally and got to meet Cal, got to meet Chester and Seth. And it was just great to meet some of the main faces of Meat Eater and finally make that connection and fish Devil's Lake for the first time. So that was a dream trip for me for sure.
That was something I was going to ask you about because you're from not far from Devil's Lake, right? Just across the border from
I grew up like an hour and I grew up an hour and a half away, like right on the border there, right by the Pembina and Nitchie crossings. Those are the 2 crossings I'm close to. And Devil's Lake was always on my radar, but just, never made it. It's just like, there's lots to fish in Canada, but I wanted to go to Devil's. And the thing that like sparked my interest in Devil's more than anything else was going to fish for the white bass. So I got to do some white bass fishing when I was down there. And that was cool. Just something I'd never caught through the ice before. And then, I don't know, I was, there you go. The white bass are super cool. We ate a couple and I got to experience, dark house spearing for pike, which was probably my favorite part of the whole trip. I'd never been around that before. Like it's not, I don't think it's legal to spear pike in Manitoba or Ontario. It's just, So to be able to be part of that in North Dakota, it felt like a cultural Dakota type thing to be a part of. And that was super cool.
For sure. That's a great fishery there, of course. So I just want to back up 1 second to working with a group like Meat Eater, because I feel like, what we're doing here, what you're doing there, and what you've been able to accomplish with YouTube is being your own boss and having your own company. And there's always that worry. And it sounds like you don't have to worry about it, but there's always that worry when you end up doing, working with a company that's a bigger company or a corporate type company and worry, all of a sudden you're working for somebody else again. And Meat Eater, I'd assume would be a little bit of a different situation since it seems like, you're basically working with the same kind of dudes that, you and I are. But, was there that worry about how much control you're going to have? Is it going to, what direction this might go?
Yeah, I think if season 1 didn't go so smoothly, there probably wouldn't have been a season 2, because that's kind of the reason why I, like doing the YouTube stuff. And that's why I've pushed more into the YouTube stuff than doing, commercial videography. I used to shoot a lot of stuff for different clients and maybe YouTube isn't the most, lucrative of channels I could have gone, but it's what I'm most passionate about. And, for just what I like to do, there's, like you said, I'm not being micromanaged. And and Meat Eater's been just amazing for that. It's like, sometimes they'll bounce ideas. They'll be like, hey Jay, what 4 videos are you thinking of? So I'll send them 6 ideas and they'll be like, yeah, let's do those 4. And that's kind of as involved as they get. Perfect. And so it's cool.
Yeah, that's nice. YouTube's a tough nut to crack. And I know creators aren't making as much money off YouTube as they used to, but if you can essentially create with some sponsors and get it on a platform like YouTube and then generate the amount of viewership, like you have like 114,000 subscribers, man, that's unreal. Like that's like, how long did it take you to get there? When did you start with that? And how, like a guy starting out on YouTube now, how does he get to that level?
Yeah, I mean, I think so I started off by filming for a guy named Aaron Weeb, Uncut Angling. If you guys watch YouTube fishing, you've probably seen Aaron's videos before. And something that I learned from Aaron is just like being tunnel visioned on it. And I think there's a lot of people that dabble with YouTube, but unless you go, just head first into it, it's really tough. And that's why it can be tough. I was fortunate that I was in a position where I was a business owner and I had a flexible schedule and I had an editor on salary already, right? So I had a guy that could edit videos, and then I could start making videos. A lot of these people that, a lot of them still that do make their living on YouTube, they're editing all their videos themselves. Right. They come home from a trip, they edit for 3 days, they go fish again. And so like, yeah, I started my channel 4 years ago with my production company going on. And I would say in the last 2 years, I was kind of just laser focused. I would take the odd corporate job, but it was like, I want to see what the potential is of YouTube. It's where I get the most joy and fulfillment from. It's cool that I can, meet great people like, you guys, and connect with people to watch the videos and all that stuff. And it's just like, I want to push more into that, even though, like I said, it might not be lucrative. It's just like what I love. And it's been my dream to be a part of some sort of fishing show. I never needed to be in front of the camera. That was never like something that was like, I need to be in front of the camera. I was like, I want to be part of a fishing show. That was my goal. And then when I started filming with Aaron, I was, completely content being behind the camera. Now I'm in front. I could go to being behind the camera. If all of a sudden YouTube, dried up tomorrow, I'd be, back to shooting, and I'd be telling stories, and I'd be just as content. So just doing the YouTube thing now while it's working, and trying to put as much effort into it as I can. I think sometimes, because I do the same, I'm in front, I'm behind the camera. Sometimes I feel like being behind the camera, I enjoy that more. I mean, everybody wants, everybody that's been in this type of industry has wanted to host their own show or whatever. But man, I love getting the shot, right? And then, and as tedious as video editing can be some days, I spend all my time editing videos now. It seems like my arms hurt, like all my forearms. It's like carpal tunnel. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and here's the thing. This is what I've heard. I've heard Bill Linder say this, and some other people too, and I'll say it myself. I don't think I'm a fantastic angler. I think, I can find fish, I can catch fish from time to time, but I think I would pride myself in like the filming in that aspect, because I think there's a lot of people that could catch the fish better than me. So I'm like, I want to be the guy that catches the shot, like the top water strike, because like everything has to go right to capture that in slow-mo and everything. So that's why like I get just as much, if not more, enjoyment from capturing a strike like that than catching the fish. Catching the fish is great, but I think there's people that could do it better than me. It just works out that sometimes I'm filming myself, and it makes the most sense that I'm the guy catching the fish, because I'm got the camera on a tripod filming myself, but it could be anyone. I'll tell you, my buddy, I love to fish too, but again, I'm the same way. There's guys that are better at it than I am, but all my buddies make fun of me for always having, are you really taking pictures of this again? Or for you really have to film this again? I'm like, well, yeah, it's like, I enjoy it. And that top water stuff, that slow-mo, we got to take a quick break for the radio network, but when we come back, I want to talk about some slow-mo footage with you. I want to talk about some of the films that you've made, because you do different styles of videos, but those films, I think those are definitely my favorite. You did a week in the Yukon, a week in the Amazon, which is wild, and some other places too. So we're going to talk about some of that stuff coming up. More at Jay Siemens when we come back.
Looking for winter adventure? Might as well pick a place with over 1,000 lakes. Ottertail County, Minnesota is in the middle of everywhere, offers a simpler pace, and has something for everyone. Find your inner otter at ottertaillakescountry.com.
We're back. Thanks for tuning into this station on the Sporting Journal Radio Network by downloading the podcast, or maybe you're watching us on YouTube, Facebook, Rumble, Instagram, wherever the place is that you're getting this stuff. Thank you very much. If you like it, share it with your friends. Our guest right now is Jay Siemens. He's got the Canadian angle with the Meat Eater Media Juggernaut. He's also got his own Juggernaut on YouTube with 114,000 subscribers. He does a good job. And one of the reasons, Jay, I think that you're successful, we were talking about it before the break, is obviously you know how to catch fish, but you're great with a camera. But I think you're also like just a good person, right? Like people enjoy, I think, seeing someone that's, kind of down to earth. Obviously you have to have some personality. You're good on camera, but you do good work and you seem like a nice guy. And I think that translates to the content that you're creating. And I think a lot of people can relate to that or resonate with that. Well, thank you. Yeah. I don't know. Like something that
I always strive to, create when I'm creating content is like, I want something that everybody can watch too. I'm very careful. I just know that like the internet's a scary place, and like a lot of parents will just give their kids their devices, and so it's like, I would, I want my videos to be something that any kid can pick up and watch, and just, maybe it can make their day a little bit better or give them a laugh, or they can learn something. So that's kind of like one of the core things I think about when I make videos. And I'm always hard on myself. I don't think I have a great personality for the video. I think I'm lucky that I know the camera stuff, but I always give myself a hard time. Like, if you want to watch some entertaining, there's a lot more people that are entertaining. I think I can get a little bit emotional. My wife can say I get very emotional when it comes to fishing and losing fish and catching fish, but that's a different conversation. So yeah, well, thank you.
Well, and so you kind of cut your teeth, so to speak, maybe with Aaron, who's definitely a personality. That was Uncut. Was that your first? Yep. The first show you were filming for, and you did
that's
for about 5 years.
5 years or so, and that's kind of where I learned how to use video cameras and learn videography. I just got thrown into it basically.
And when you decided to kind of go and do your own thing, were you nervous about doing that, or were you excited about that opportunity?
It was like, that's when my, media business was, I was probably on the road at that point in my life, I was probably on the road for like 200 days a year, just shooting like different corporate and travel and tourism stuff. So I was like, oh, you know what? I should start a YouTube channel, and I can look back on these videos in a couple of years, and it'll be cool memories, right? It was never like, no, I want to be. That's
how it started?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Like if you look at my first couple of videos, it's like me, giving tips and tricks on like wedding photography, or me going to Newfoundland with a buddy and just like bringing a camera along and trying to teach and just trying to document. And I was like, this will be cool to watch back on. And it was never like, I'm going to become a YouTuber. It was like, I wanted, it's another, I'm making these videos. Like I said, I have an editor. Let's make some videos, and it'll be a cool way to document things. And it was only really when like, Manitoba Tourism was like, we want you to, help promote Manitoba, and we'll help you build your YouTube channel. We'll help promote, and we'll sponsor you financially. And I was just like, okay, yeah, like let's try, let's see. Right. And then kind of after a year or two of that, then I was like, okay, well, maybe I should start saying no to some of these other jobs and see what can happen with YouTube. And, the rest was just kind of putting my head down and making videos. And that's the tough thing about YouTube for breaking into it, because like you need to be laser focused on it. You need to be like, I was talking to some other guys, and they're like, we make TV shows, but like, how do you, get into YouTube? And it's like, here's the thing. It's like, if I was focused on making TV shows, I wouldn't be focused on making YouTube videos. If I was focused on guiding, or like, let's say winning tournaments, there's a lot of tournament anglers have YouTube channels, but there's not a lot of tournament anglers that could win tournaments and, have thriving YouTube channels. There's like Brandon Palaniuk and like Scott Martin. Those guys have been able to do the crossover and done both, but it's a tough deal, because as soon as you're focused on cameras, you're not focusing on catching fish. And it's that inner battle all the time. And that's when people start filming. They're like, Jay, how do you know when to like film and then just not get caught up in the fishing? And it's like, well, you just have to be, you have to be focused on getting the shot. Otherwise, if you just get caught up in the fishing, you'll never get that video, right?
You almost have to make that decision before you go. Am I going to film? Am I going to fish? Am I going to do a little bit? Like, what's the priority here today?
Yeah.
And it's funny. I do a lot with Tourism Saskatchewan over there, and do some stuff with those guys, and I'll go out fishing and to film some fishing, and I'll do some fishing with them too, but they always want to start fishing right away. I'm like, guys, can I put a microphone on you first?
Oh, that's my pet peeve. If someone drops down, especially my wife, I'll give her a hard time. Sam, if she like, we get to the spot and she'll just like rig and she's a good angler, and she'll rig up a minnow on her rod and drop it down, and then she'll catch a fish, and that'll just make my blood boil. I'm like, wait 1 second, wait till I'm ready. And I mean, I get it. She like, it takes so long to set everything up, which you don't see often, right? It's just like, but it's all good.
Got to get that Sam cam fired up.
Yeah.
That's great. So, you growing up, you wanted to have a fishing show. Did you ever imagine it wouldn't be on an actual channel?
Yeah, no, I don't think, I mean, YouTube wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
And I've said this a couple times, but it's just like the fact that I've heard recently is like more kids want to be YouTubers and wannabe astronauts. Not that I wanted to be an astronaut, but that was just like a thing kids said when they were age. They wanted to play in the NHL or something. And now it's like, oh, I want to be a YouTuber. And it wasn't a thing. Even when Aaron and Uncut Angling started in like 2011, it was just like companies were unsure. It's like, hey, do we really want to promote on YouTube? And now, like, I don't know about you guys, but for me, I watch more YouTube than TV. Like, I don't have a cable subscription. I don't have satellite. Like, it's just the focus is YouTube because it's something current. I can watch it right away. And yeah.
Well, I go back and forth because I do an actual TV show too that airs on a bunch of PBS stations. So I still, and I'm an old radio guy, so I still have some love for traditional media. But Dan is living here with me now, and we're working on this stuff pretty much every day. And last few nights, especially getting ready for this, we were on YouTube every night watching videos, a lot of your stuff, and just different. And then we're having a party coming up in April on the Rainy River. So nice. We've been watching a bunch of spring fishing on the Rainy River, which was
that's cool.
One was yours too.
Yeah.
But YouTube is it's an interesting thing, and being a traditional media guy for a long time, I didn't put a lot of stock into YouTube yet, and even podcasts for that matter. I'm like, I do a real radio show, podcast.
It's funny though, like because my dad, he's just retired, but he worked in the radio industry for 45 years.
Oh, really?
And I always gave him grief, and I said, Dad, radio's on the way out. And he's like, no, you watch. And I said that to him for the past 10 years, and radio's still crushing it, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so it's like it all has its place. I think it's shifting around, but I think, I don't think TV is going to go away overnight. I think radio is there's still things that you get with radio that you don't get with podcasts and you don't get with YouTube. So, yeah.
Yeah, there'll always be a place for over-the-air broadcasts, and especially if you end up in a situation like what's happening in Ukraine where they lost the internet. I mean, could you imagine in America or even Canada for that matter, if the internet went away, like what some of those
people would die
with the younger generations, they'd have no idea. Like when I'm speaking to a younger generation, I use the word podcast before I use the word radio when I describe what I do. And if I'm talking to an older crowd, I'm like, it's a radio show, and we also have the podcast. If it's a younger crowd, we have this podcast. You can watch it on YouTube. That's
great.
It's all about knowing your audience. And then, so when you were, I want to talk about guiding too, because where are we at for time, Dan? We got to take another break, by the way. We're good? All right. So when you were 15, you started guiding at Eagle Nest Lodge on the Winnipeg River, and you sunk a boat.
Yeah.
So I saw that. I saw you talk about it, but I don't think you told the story about sinking the boat. Can you tell the story? Did you tell the story? I can't remember if you told.
I can tell you the story. I've told the story a couple times. And I think it gets a little funnier every time. So yeah, when I got dropped off to start guiding, I didn't have my driver's yet. So I was 15 at the time. My parents dropped me off, and I got shipped up to the lodge for the summer. And it was like my first week of guiding, and we were going into Portage Lake. So we would hop in the camp boats, little tillers with like 40 Mercs. We would drive up to this other lake, park at the bottom of the waterfall, hike to the top, fish for the day, come back down. So we're coming back down after having a great day of fishing. And, I'm feeling all proud. I'm young. I'm 15. We caught a bunch of walleyes. I'm like, this is a good day. This is the life. We hop back in the boat, and it had been raining all day. And, a trick that I knew before then was if there's water in the bottom of the boat and the bilge wasn't working, the bilge pump, you pull the plug, and as long as you're driving, the water will drain out the bottom.
Right.
So I pull the plug. We start making our way back, and it's a 45 minute boat ride. So, I have the memory of a goldfish, if you know me at all. And so we get back to the dock, all the water's drained out. I tie up the boat. I go up for dinner, and there's like the guide quarters where all the guides are eating. And all of a sudden a guide comes in, and he's like, Jay, or he addresses all the guys. He's like, guys, we all got to get out to the dock. We got a boat sinking. And I'm like, oh no, whose boat is sinking? I feel so bad for that guide. So we start walking down the dock. And as we get closer and closer, I'm just like, that's my dock slip, and I see just the cowling of the motor sticking out. And I'm like, no, there's no way this is mine. So yeah, of course it's my boat. And they all look at me, they're like, okay, Jay, you gotta hop back in. So they give me a plug. I hop in the water, fully clothed, put the plug back in the boat. All four guides, grab a corner of the boat, lift it up. They have like a commercial sub pump to pump out all the water. And they're like, okay, now you gotta go tell the boss what happened. So the owner is having a nice sit down dinner with his wife in the dining room. So there I am, dripping wet, 15 years old. I go up to the dining room. I'm like, Fred, I pulled the plug and I forgot to put it back in, and I sunk a boat. And he's like, okay, well, just don't do it again. And he couldn't have been any better about it. The boat had to get shipped into Lactabani to get worked on, and it was fine. It was just like, had to drain the water out. But safe to say I've not made that mistake again. And I've told, like people, that story just spread like wildfire, and it was funny. I can laugh about it.
That's great.
But yeah, that's the only boat I've sunk. I've hit my fair share of rocks, but that's it for sunk boats, at least.
And you got talked to on your first day too, because you outfished your clients. Guiding is a lot of people don't realize that guiding's a little bit different than fishing, isn't it?
Oh yeah. Like it's a no-no. Looking back on it, and now that I've been guided once in a while when I go to film at a lodge, it's like unless the person you're fishing with very explicitly says pick up a rod, I don't think the guide should be fishing. And that was just, it's me being green. That was the best way to learn. Was I screwed up and I got sat down by the owner and the guide manager. And they were so gracious about it. And they said, Jay, you can't fish. These people are paying a lot of money to come up here. You can't be fishing in front of them. I'm like, but they couldn't catch the fish. I wanted to catch the bass. They were missing it. So sometimes I learned very quickly.
I think there's something too about at least showing them how to catch it once in a while. I think the guide has.
Yeah, I think a cast or two is okay. Yeah.
All right, we do have to take a quick break on the network. Actually, we're going to wrap up the radio show right now, but we got more on the podcast with Jay Siemens right after this.
Keeping sheep on the mountain. That's the goal of the Wild Sheep Foundation, and you can help by attending the Midwest chapter of the Wild Sheep Foundation's annual banquet, March 25th and 26th at the Minneapolis Marriott Southwest in Minnetonka. This year, you could win your very own Dall sheep hunt in the Yukon. Plus, enjoy keynote speakers like conservationist Shane Mahoney, President and CEO of the Wild Sheep Foundation, Gray Thornton, and the British Columbia Backcountry Hunters and Anglers Chapter Liaison, Bill Hanlon. Plus, there'll be live and silent auctions and seminars put on by the Huntin' Fool. For more information, go to MidwestWildSheep.com. 852 million acres of public land, 147 million private properties, all in the palm of your hand. The #1 hunting GPS app just got better. With hundreds of custom map layers, 3D and topographic maps, you can easily scout on the road or at home before you go. And now you can get important weather details, CWD detection, and even know what crops have been planted where. Get the most trusted hunting GPS app ever made. OnX. Know where you stand with OnX.
All right, we're back here on the podcast. Thank you very much for watching. Jay Siemens is our guest. Jay, I want to talk to you about traveling and filming some of these. I don't know what to call them. Like we do some trips where we film and make like a vlog, and I call them adventure videos or trip videos. I haven't quite figured out the best name for them yet. And I think my favorite from what you do is when you do the films. You got a whole playlist on YouTube of films, and there's a week in the Yukon, a week in the Amazon, and you tie in, not only do you tie in the story of where you're going and some interviews and things like that, but you work in so much of the cinematic elements to filming. And I love the eye candy. I mean, I think that's my favorite. Content is king. You have to have content. I like to say, like, you could film Bigfoot with a 1998 flip phone, and you're going to probably have the most widely viewed video in the world. So you have to have some content, but making it look good is so important. When you go out and film something, do you know ahead of time, is this going to be a film? Is this going to be, more of a vlog story? What's your thought process going into making a video?
Yeah. So it's typically something I would decide ahead of time. There's different ways to look at it, and it depends. Like that Yukon trip, I could have split it into 6 different days, but I was like, that was my first film, and I was like, I want to experiment. I want to try some voiceover. It'll be a way that I can tell a story in a different way. And so if I'm doing a 1-day trip, it likely won't turn into a film. There's not necessarily enough of a story. I might be teaching a technique or just bringing you along for a half day. But if I'm doing something, bigger, a little more special, it'll probably turn into a film. And what makes it a film, probably a little more leaning into the cinematography side and then the voiceover. But like when people ask me, they're like, Jay, what should I do? I want to make YouTube videos. What would you suggest for, being successful? And it's like, well, you got to make what you want to make. That Yukon video was like, I want to make it because I want to make, like, that's just, I want to be creative in that way. I want to make a film. So that was an experiment. And I think you always got to experiment as a creator. And I think it worked out good. It got, a good response. People viewed it. So, I definitely like doing the film style. And it's something that I think I look back on and I don't know. I know the work that went into it, the editing on those films. I'm locked away in my office for a long time working on those. And because there's just more room for creativity, like some of those films, I'll just for the sake of the flow, sometimes I'll combine days to make it flow a little better. I'll cut out complete days. Like I went to the Arctic this summer and I just cut a couple days out of the trip because I didn't feel like they told the story in the way I wanted to tell it. Not to try to ever give someone a false perception of the fishing or something, but it's like one day we went out e-biking and I'm like, well, I don't think the fishing crowd is going to care about e-biking. The footage wasn't that special. Let's just scrap that entire day. So that day got cut out of the film. And that's something that, you can decide to do when you're editing, right? You can call the shots and the films are, I like looking back on them every once in a while and being like, oh, I remember that trip, especially the ones, with my wife. It's cool to have those memories on film.
Absolutely. And by the way, Dan, play that last clip from Wolf Lake there that you played from the Yukon with Todd, because this slow motion grayling footage, I could just watch that on a loop. Like the one where it comes up and eats that fly, man, that was incredible.
It was a special place. Like when I walked up there and saw the grayling everywhere, I'm like,
this shot right here.
I may never be able to get grayling footage like that again. So I spent, a couple hours just filming the takes. Yeah. And it's the type of thing where if I was just trying to film a video that day, I might not have taken all that time to do that. But in the sake of the film, I'm like, this might be one little piece in the film and, let's do it. So, that's what I love about YouTube stuff is you can change it up. There's no formula, right? It's not like I need to make a 22-minute TV show. It needs to be cut exactly to that. Right. And,
make it as long as you need to make it is what I like to tell people, as long as if it's compelling, people will watch it till the end, no matter how long it is. That's how I determine lengths a lot of times.
Yeah. There's a phrase I heard in a storytelling workshop I went to. And the guy said, basically, he said, like, you want to leave the scene or enter the scene late and leave the scene early in the fact that, like, give the people the best of the best and not too much filler. So like at the end, it's like, oh man, I can't wait till the next one. Cause I don't want people to be clicking off at 75%. I want it to end and be like, oh man, I wanted more of that. I wanted to see more strikes, but it's like, no, you got to, keep them wanting, right? That's
so hard too, because you might have another great shot that you feel like deserves to be in there. And it's like, how do you cut that stuff out? And you're right. You gotta just make it the best of the best. And when all that work, you said you spent hours getting that shot, not to mention traveling with all that gear. And I know what it's like to have to travel with all that gear and then put it on a float plane and travel with all that gear. Yeah. Packing is a nightmare. And then just trying to make sure nothing's broken. How many cameras have you broken on some of these trips?
I've gone through a lot of drones. I feel like drones are the things that break the most, but I'm probably on like my 7th or 8th drone. But over the last couple of years, I've just tried to streamline all of my gear, and cameras are getting smaller. And I mean, this is my workhorse for 95% of my stuff now. This is an A7S III, and it's amazing what this little camera can do and what's all packed into it. I used to need to carry this big camera along specifically for slow-mo shots. I would bring this big Sony FS5, and I would use it just for slow-mo shots, and then it would go back in my backpack. And now I can do everything with that small camera. And the drones fold up now, like the original Phantoms, I'd have to bring an extra case on the float plane, and now it folds up. So I can fit professional level gear, everything I need in a backpack. And, I try not to overcomplicate it because, like we said, getting the Bigfoot shot with a flip phone is more important than not getting the shot at all. You get these red cameras, these $60,000 cameras, and they take a minute to boot up. I can't tell you how many times like the animal's right in front of you or the fish is right in front of you and you don't have time for the camera to boot up. So it's like a lot of people are watching the content on their phones or on smaller, computer screens. And it's like, I think there's a place for red cameras and all that high end stuff. But I've just realized that getting the shot will always trump the resolution or,
Well, I've got a buddy that films a TV show, a pretty big TV show, and he filmed with a Red for a while, and then he started shooting with a GH5, and he's like, I couldn't tell. Like I was watching some of the footage, I couldn't tell half the time which camera it was. So now he uses that GH5 so often, and I went and bought a GH5, and then my buddy had an R6, the new Canon R6, and I played around with that, and I'm like, all right, I got to go buy an R6 now. So that's mostly what I shoot with, but we have FS5s at Prairie Sportsman at the TV show. How nice is it with that Sony that you're shooting slow motion with that Sony versus the FS5. Because yes, FS5 was good quality, but it was goofy how you had to work the slow motion on those.
Yeah, like the FS5 had like the burst function, so you'd only get 8 seconds of slow mo. And now with this camera, you can do unlimited slow mo. The problem with that is sometimes you fill up way more footage, right? Because before I could wait till this is getting real geeky and technical, but there's a setting called N trigger, and basically it's always buffering whatever you're filming. When you press the button, it'll take the 8 seconds before. So that's like the dream for filming topwater strikes, because you follow the lure every cast. Only when the fish eats, you count to 4 in your head, you press the button, and it takes, the 8 seconds beforehand. So that was the best for filming topwater. If I film it with this camera now, you're just rolling continuous and you fill up a lot of memory cards.
I got so many clips of just the topwater just going across the water, nothing happening. But yeah, I forgot. I guess that would be a nice situation to have that, like a pre-record or end trigger or something like that. But where do you want to travel that you haven't traveled to yet?
Oh man. I definitely want to do more fishing in Europe. Like I don't even know if I've done any fishing in Europe. I'd love to do Xander. I love walleye fishing. So I think Xander is like the next step. And I've got friends in Sweden too, that do a lot of pike fishing and perch fishing. So I think that would just be something unique. I love the cultural differences and stuff there beyond them being, different species of fish as well. So I think some Europe stuff would be cool. And I think there's, more to see in, South. I mean, yeah, there's endless opportunities. So I just want I have an issue with going to the same place twice.
Sure.
And, it's a battle, because then you know what you're getting into. You learn the fishery, and then when you come back, you've got all that info from last time. Like there's, a walleye lake that's you might want to go back to, but it's like, oh, what if I go to the new lake and maybe I find something better? So that's the constant battle for me, because I want to go everywhere once, which I know isn't realistic, but.
Well, I was surprised to see the Amazon trip on your channel. And a lot of times if I see, it's hard for me because I'm expecting to see Canadian waters, So I sat down and watched it, and it was fascinating. And I loved it. It was not what I expected. And I actually I did a duck hunt in Argentina a few years ago. And you talk about just kind of learning the culture a little bit and going on an adventure to a different part of the world. I mean, that's half of it. It was interesting. And part of the excitement, I think, was just trying to learn how to communicate with people that didn't speak English, try to learn the Spanish language a little bit. And that gate, we're in Miami before you flew out. I'm pretty sure I slept on that floor right there. I'm pretty sure I slept there a couple of weeks ago when I was down in Florida. I got stranded in Miami overnight, and they were flying to Brazil out of that gate. So I'm pretty sure it looks just like it. But South America is when you rode up to the boat that you ended up staying on. I shouldn't even call it a boat, the yacht or the floating hotel.
The floating hotel is what they call it, yeah.
When I saw the exterior of it, I was like, okay, this is interesting. This is kind of, this reminds me of South America a little bit. When you showed the interior, I was blown away. I didn't expect that.
It was insane. That whole trip was, it was just a moment that I didn't want to get too excited about till it actually happened. But basically, it was a friend of a friend, a guy that I guided up in northern Saskatchewan, was neighbors with the owner of, he is Captain Peacock, the owner of the floating hotel. And he called me, and it was like March 15th. And he's like, oh, we'd love for you to come, and film at our lodge. I'm like, oh, when does your season start? He's like, oh, it starts in September. So I'm like, okay, yeah, let's set in some dates. He's like, oh no, but I want you to come before the season ends. And I'm like, well, when does that mean? He's like, well, can you leave in a week? And for me, I thrive off of the last minute spontaneous, all sorts of that stuff. Like you could tell me tomorrow I'm going to Africa, and I'd be like, okay, that's cool. My wife is a little more of a creature of habit, which is admirable as well. And I remember calling her and I'm like, Sam, so we kind of need to make a decision by the end of today, but do you want to go to Brazil for 10 days? And it pushed her out of her comfort zone, but I think she would agree it's one of her favorite trips she's ever been on. So yeah, we booked our flights like a week before, and every aspect of it was just surreal. Like it was, my wife likes fishing. It's not what she lives and dies for. And just the fact that there's a pool on top and there's air conditioning and there's like just everything. It was pretty special place. So that is a place I would certainly go back to, would be Captain Peacock in Brazil.
Well, it sounds like that air conditioning was welcome. It sounds like it was pretty hot down there. And then I saw her catching a peacock and she was thumbing it. You were using a gripper. Did they have teeth? What was the
big ones? I think the big ones they often use. I think you could lip any fish, but the bigger ones, they just, that's what the guide would do. Okay. And then kind of hand it over to you, sort of thing, if they're landing the fish.
I gotcha.
But yeah, we were so unlucky on that trip as far as big fish went. Like, because every day you come back at the end of the day and you're sharing stories, and there was like, I think the biggest that week was there's a 22 pounder caught, 20, 21 pounder, 17 pounder. And I think the biggest we got was 7 or 8 pounder. Maybe it was the one Sam caught. So that's just how it goes sometimes. You don't always get lucky on that side of things, but, yeah, I will go back there at some point and catch a double digit peacock. They're so cool. That's the closest thing I've seen to a freshwater fish, the closest thing I've seen to a saltwater fish for freshwater fishing, as far as aggression and like the tenacity and the fact that they can turn on and turn off so fast. Like I've only seen that in saltwater fish before. I've never seen that in a freshwater fish. So
that one where it kicked your top water like 10 feet or whatever, that was awesome. And then we got to show, so that big one, Sam caught the big one, right? It was about 8 pounds or whatever. Do we have that? Yeah. We got the audio with this one because we had to keep the audio with this one because this is great. I just love the emotion on this. Do we have audio?
Hooked up. That's a big one. Man, it just popped my lure at me like 10 feet. Talk to me, Sam. Oh, keep it tight. Come on. Come on. Lift. That's a big one.
Oh my goodness.
Come on. Oh, yeah. Yes. Oh.
We got him.
Oh. Sam.
Oh, dude.
Yeah, her reaction's so good.
Yeah. You can hold him with the bow grip if you want. Yeah, there we go. Hold it a little bit higher. Yeah. One last look at that monster. Look at the colors on that. And that's only an 8 pounder. They get so much bigger. All right, going over the side.
Yeah, I can't imagine a 20 pounder.
Right? Well, that whole sequence, and then I think, do we have the release shot? That whole sequence from kicking that top water to her catching it and the emotion of it, and then that release shot that you got on it. That I think that's my favorite part of that film that you did.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it's just a different world down there, and those fish are stunning. Like it's and it's just so funny, like you said, with the language barrier and stuff too. Like our guide's name was Nacho. I don't know if that's his actual name or what they gave him, but like, oh yeah, we just had no. He would know the word cast basically, and he would just tell us to keep casting at the same spot. And I remember one moment where like he kept telling us to cast at the same spot. And I don't think I'm necessarily the easiest person to guide because I'll be honest, I don't really like being guided. Like if they would have given me the keys to the boat, I would have just gone off on my own. And he kept telling us to cast the same tree. And finally I'm like, Sam, I knew he wasn't understanding us. And I was like, Sam, I'm not going to cast at that tree anymore. And she's like, no, just keep casting at the tree. I'm like, we've cast that so many times. And then my body language was probably showing a little bit that I was getting frustrated. And I casted at the tree again and caught one. And I'm like, he was right. I should always trust your guide.
Always trust your guide. That's right. The most unexpected part of that trip though was when you went to visit that village and they had the doctors and the dentists with. I'm glad that was a part of it. That was a really neat part of that film.
Yeah. So, I mean, basically I don't know if he gives free trips or discounts to doctors and dentists and stuff, but he does the outreach to the community. Cause I think that's something a lot of fishing lodges deal with, is coming into these communities and kind of taking over, whether it be, on a lake up north where there's a native reservation, or if it's down south where there's these villages along the Rio Negro River. So it's cool. So they bring these doctors in, they get, a discount or a free fishing trip, whatever it is. And then they go into the village and they'll give them free dental care, free health care. And it's a part of the trip and it's just a cool outreach. And I think a lot of people are like happy to do that on a trip, especially if you've got, skills to share. It's like people are happy to share their skills. And I think that's a cool way that the lodge gives back. And yeah, I can't really say I've seen that with other outfitters before.
Well, you have to, especially if you're not, local, if you're coming into a community like that, you have to find a way to give back to that community or work with them or help out. And man, I just thought that was great that they do that. And then the drone shot at the end of that big floating hotel pulling all those boats. Crazy.
Oh, it's pretty cool. Yeah. It's, I don't know how many aluminum boats they have on there. I think they have like, probably 12 or I don't know how many. Yeah, probably 12 there. And it's pretty impressive to see that whole thing going. Like, and I wouldn't want to be the guy driving that. It would be, it's a lot of work to get it all set up and stuff. But I mean, they have it down to a science, and they fit a lot of people on that barge. Yeah, pretty cool. The engineering. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just to be able to, like, I get nervous towing one boat half the time. But, but being able to tow and just how they have to hook them all up to keep them in line like that, that's pretty neat.
Yeah.
I want to talk about one more trip before we let you go here. I know we're keeping you pretty long today.
No, you're good.
But I want to talk about that trip to, is it Isinglass?
Yeah.
Isinglass, the journey to Isinglass. First, as a guy who does some filming and some interviews, it was weird to see you doing a sit-down interview in front of a Ken Sutter.
Interviewed myself in the backyard. Yeah, people are probably like, "Why is this guy filming himself?" But I just thought it was a way to tell the story. But yeah, it's always funny interviewing yourself because you get some funny looks. If I was outside, so otherwise people wouldn't see it when I'm interviewing myself.
Right.
But
so did you just pick out like a tree to stare at then, so it looked like you were? Or did you have somebody off camera actually?
I think Sam. I think my wife was asking me questions. I don't remember completely, but I just remember like it's starting to snow and sleet, and I'm trying to film this interview, and I was like, I got to get it done. But yeah, that was a.
But that and the fries from the food truck looked amazing, by the way.
Yes, that's a must. Yeah, in
but the colors. So you were on a row. Oh yeah, we got to show you the fries from the food truck. So that's a chip truck.
The chip truck. There's a couple of those in Kenora, and it's. Yeah, pretty much. They just sell French fries, and it's a must stop for anyone coming through.
So good. So you got to go to Isinglass. You got to go down a road that you had to get a permit for. Is that right?
Yeah. So we could go down a rabbit hole talking about Isinglass and everything beyond that. So yeah, there's an old mining road, and basically, if you are, part of the mining, if you're doing work on that road, then you can get a pass to go down that road. And we're like, well, we're doing tourism, and tourism is kind of like a resource. So, my neighbor Scott, who I've partnered with on a few projects, he's like, well, we'll see if we can get a permit. So he got this permit, and it allowed us to get close to the lake, not right to the lake, and then to bring in the scuba gear and all that stuff. Because we could have done it portaging, but I just don't think it would have been as realistic, given how cold it was, time of year, all that stuff. So we were pretty fortunate to be able to do that, and just to show the area in a different way, right? Like anyone could do this trip and do it without traveling the road. It would just take a little bit longer, and most people aren't taking camera gear and all that extra gear that we took, right? So people could portage in there with scuba gear and do it on their own.
Well, being able to dive in, clear Canadian lake like that had to have been amazing. And I need to get certified because I want to do that, and I want to get an underwater housing, and I want to do some shooting underwater. I think that would be just fascinating. And this lake trout footage that you got, and I do so much with Lakers up in Saskatchewan. I want to do this so bad. I can run like an inline camera down to about 60 feet without any lights and get footage. I would love to go down there with a big camera and shoot fish like this. That had been cool.
That was pretty unique, and they're kind of spooky though. But yeah, that day was like a blizzard above the water, and but it was something I wanted to do because I haven't really seen too much aside from Aquaview of like swimming with lake trout. They weren't big ones; those were all like 2-3 pounders.
Sure,
but something unique, and yeah, the scuba world is definitely unlocked. All sorts of filming potential, and you just learn. That's the reason I wanted to get into scuba diving beyond the video content aspect. It was just like I want to learn what fish do and how they react. And I've yet to see a walleye underwater, but I've seen bass, because bass will come up to you and you knock rocks together and they'll come right up to you. Walleyes, you kind of see a dust cloud. And it's like, there probably used to be a walleye there, but he's a little smarter.
He's gone.
So,
well, we got some mine lakes up around Crosby, Minnesota, the Cuyuna Lakes, where guys will go with dive gear and cameras and then ice fishing rods, and they'll sit right down on the bottom of the lake and they'll jig for smallmouth and largemouth, and they'll catch them on ice rods sitting on the bottom of the lake. It's pretty neat. And without getting too nerdy into camera stuff, like when you got that footage of those lake trout, like how soon did you try to review footage, and how cool was it? Like when you get that feeling that you just captured something that you've never seen before, how cool of a feeling is that? Yeah, I want to guard that memory card. I'm like nervous pulling it out and then putting it into the computer for the first time. Yeah. I've like this one story that I was guiding, and the guest caught a 46 or 47 inch pike, and I pulled the memory card out, and at the lodge I was working at, they had a person called a photo tech, and they would categorize all the photos. They'd make a slideshow for the guests. Sure. And I handed the memory card to the photo tech, and when she put it into the back of the computer, she put it at a weird angle, and the card just split open, and they lost all their photos. And it was just like, how do you come back from that? How do you explain that to your guest? I've had a situation, losing wedding photos for a client, which has only happened once, and it was only some of the photos, but it's like same thing. I've been fortunate with outdoor stuff that I haven't really had any catastrophic losses, but that's always in the back of my head. So like, especially when I'm dealing with underwater stuff, I'll often bring my laptop in the boat and I'll actually back it up on location sometimes, or just to make sure the camera's filming. Cause sometimes with the underwater stuff, you don't always know for sure if it's filming. If I have my camera in a housing, I can review the footage, but there's always that off chance that something gets messed up. So I knock on wood, I've been pretty fortunate with not losing much of that stuff, but it's always in the back of my head, Sure. Or if I'm pressing record or not. Yeah. Well, I was just down in Florida at Bienville shooting the Shimano thing, and, I was in the boat with one of the pros, and he caught this bass, and it was in trees, right? So it was bouncing up through logs and bouncing and rolling over branches and this and that. And I had it all in slow-mo, and I'm like, oh my gosh, because the slow-mo records without sound. So I'm like, this is amazing. This is going to be so cool. And I'm talking to him as I'm getting it. He brings it in. I interview him in the boat. He talks about his, why he's using braid, and this is why. This is a great example, the tough gear that we use. And then there's no audio. I didn't hit record. I missed the whole fish. So I thought it was rolling, but apparently when I pressed the button, I didn't press down hard enough, and then I was focusing so much on my focus peaking and getting the shot and framing and all that. I couldn't see the little red record up in the corner, and but that's the way it goes sometimes. I mean that's just if you do it long enough, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's just Yeah, for sure. A couple of last things on that trip. Yeah. That raft, I didn't expect to see a raft with the two canoes built like that. That was pretty wild. I'd never seen that before. Yeah, my buddy Scotty, who planned the trip, that was his brainchild, and it was so stable. And my wife Sam was the captain in the middle, sitting there. She didn't even have to paddle, so it was perfect for her, and it was cool. It was all part of the story, and being able to show that, and that's what I like about those longer films too, is you can get into the story, and it's not just it's not always cut and dry to the bare bones. You can, look at all the gear we had on there. Right. Yeah. That's brilliant. So obviously it was fairly calm that day. How stable do you think that would have been in some higher winds? Oh, it would have been good. You would have gotten like splashes of water over the front, but it would have been, incredibly stable. Yeah. And the colors on those trees. I mean, that was perfect timing out there. It was the best time of year. Yeah. Like we didn't see any lake trout on the first lake. We had to go to a different lake to find lake trout, but just as far as timing goes for color and the clarity of the water, it was just, like as soon as I looked at it on Google Maps, I'm like, okay, this lake is pretty special. And that's what I heard. And that video, it definitely got a little bit of kickback. And that's the problem with what I do. And I think these days with social media is it's a fine line, because conservation comes from people knowing about stuff, but people don't always want you to know about stuff. Oh, so it's just like in that video, I'm like, let's protect this resource. It's a special place. And I know a couple of people that messaged me, or I heard through the grapevine, and they're like, I can't believe Jay showed that lake. I can't believe he exposed isinglass. And it's, I don't know exactly the reasoning. Some people, it might be legit reasoning that they just don't want people there. Other people want to keep it by themselves. But fun little fact about that video is, it got backlash. I got multiple messages from people, but
there was a big meeting with some, big corporations, and they wanted to create a mine on that lake. And they were in the stages of getting approval to build a mine on isinglass. And that video got shown at the meeting, and they voted down building the mine on the lake.
Get
and
out
it's
of
just
here.
like, yeah. And that I only found out that a couple months ago, and like, it gives me goosebumps just talking about it, because I haven't shared that story with anyone. But it's just like, that goes back to what I said at the start. Is conservation only comes with people knowing about stuff. So it's just like, if I don't want to take credit for that, because the video is so much bigger than me, but it's just like, maybe it helped. Maybe that was part of the reason why it got voted down. So, I mean, I'd like to think that. I like to think that it helped protect that lake, but I think sometimes people are a little short-sighted on their own personal, motives on that stuff. And I get that it's nice to be on a lake when you never see anybody, but I love the outdoors and I love to share it. And it's like, if you want to go to the work of paddling in there, do it and bring people and pick up your trash when you're done. And it's great, so.
That's the beauty of places like that. As long as you make it, create a few barriers to make it tough to get in, you can usually keep some of those places fairly, like the Boundary Waters, keep them fairly wild if they're tough to get in. They tried to build a cell tower by the Boundary Waters here for a long time. I can't remember if they actually ended up building it, but they didn't want it built. The locals didn't want it built, because I was just going to bring more traffic and make it easier to be in there. And that brings up a whole other discussion. This is probably for a different podcast, but that brings up another discussion of social media and how to use it. And you want to show people some of these things and show some stories. And, for our TV show, a lot of times if we're doing a fishing story, we won't name the lake sometimes for that very reason. We'll try to protect, unless it's Lake of the Woods or Mille Lacs, some big body of water. It's no secret, but we'll try to protect some of those areas. But it's so hard, especially when you find such a unique story. And I've got a couple of stories in the back of my brain that I've wanted to do, go and film or interview or whatever, and they won't let me. They're like, no, we don't want the attention. I'm like, this is an amazing story. And they're like, well, it's our story and you know about it, and that's good enough for us. And I was like, well, I respect that, I guess. But man,
it's tough.
No, go ahead.
No, it's just that constant fine line. It's just like, you hear stories both ways,
Mm-hmm.
So
well, that's
it's just something we need to navigate. And I think, put good information out there too on selective harvest, on catch and release and all those things. I think it's like, that's part of the duty as well. Not just like, here's how you catch them. Here's how you release them too. If you catch a big one, or if you don't, so. That's
really become a big part of what we do here, is to try to protect our resources and promote sustainability. We love to eat fish, and obviously there's a product I want to try on some of my fish, by the way, that we can mention. But I also, at Tasman Lake, where I do a lot of stuff up in northwest Saskatchewan, it's all catch and release on the big fish. We don't, guys get mad at us because we won't let them mount, a 50-pound lake trout. And it's like, well, you get a good picture of it. We got a girth measurement, we got a length measurement, and get a replica done, and it's going to last a lot longer and look a lot better, and it's going to protect the resource.
Absolutely.
So that sustainability is an important thing. Before we let you go, tell us about the cooking world that you're getting into.
Yeah, I was in the ice shack with my buddy Josh McFadden. This was probably 2.5 years ago. And, Josh is a major foodie. He's always experimenting with wild game and different things. And we were cooking fish. And then I was like, we should start, maybe a fish batter company. Maybe we can market this and turn this into something. And we started looking around, because like the big term on YouTube was catch and cook. And it was just like that's what people called it. They'd catch fish, they'd cook them. And I'm like, I wonder if there's a business called Catch and Cook. So we started searching, and there was no business called Catch and Cook. And it's like, how is this possible? How is nobody taken this yet? So I think that was part of the reason why we're like, let's start this up. So Josh had the original recipe. I tried it. I was like, okay, I sign off on this. I like it. So I've been in the product development, with the other flavors since. We got 3 flavors of coatings. We got 3 spices. We dropped a folding fillet knife. And the reception's been phenomenal. It's been super cool to share it with my audience and with, people that just love to eat fish. Cause I think the vast majority of people, and we often say it's a fish coating, but it's for everything. It's cool to see how people have experimented with it, and they'll use it for, grouse, or use it for anything, for shrimp, for chicken, whatever they have accessible. And just people sharing it with me, seeing what they're doing, and, getting creative with it. And we want it to be like an interactive space. And that's kind of what Catch and Cook has become. And so right now you can order it off our website, but we're working on getting it into the States. So if someone listening right now happens to own a tackle store in the States, that's our goal for our focus for 2022 is, getting it onto the shelves in the States at a Bain tackle shop near you. So
do you do you get sales in the States from your website? How easy is that?
That's super easy. If someone wants to order from catchandcook.net, they can do that. But I know not everyone wants to pay for the shipping, right? Because I personally didn't think, I didn't know. I'm like, will people buy fish batter online? Is that a thing? And people have bought it online, so that's been great. But I understand that fish coating spices is the type of thing where you go fishing for the day, you stop at the tackle store on the way home, and you pick up some coating. It's not the type of thing that I would necessarily think about, I need to order some before this trip. I'd pick some up at the local gas station, right? So that's what we're trying to expand into. We know there's a lot of fishermen in the States that eat fish. So we, it's been fun. I think we're going to continue to go ahead.
Can I just point out one thing? You started a company with a guy that involves food, and he served you uncooked sausages, I think, right? Wasn't that?
That's a good one. You're very true. Yeah, he hasn't lived that one down. People got a lot of laughs out of that. There's a clip in one of our videos, and Josh has this sausage he got from an Asian cooking store. So it's got I'm not sure what the rating is on there, but obviously, there's a little bit of English. And then, so we're start eating these sausages. It's kind of sweet and kind of a weird texture and flavor. And then underneath a lot of the text, it just says, "Do not eat raw" in English in really small writing. And then I spit it out. He spits it out. And, we turned it into a TikTok that got a lot of views. It was pretty funny because it's just one of those little small moments in the video, and it's just I don't hold it. Neither of us got sick, so I don't hold it against him. And that's the thing too. It's you never know what you're going to capture when the camera's rolling all day. You just I do a lot of stupid stuff. A lot of it I edit out. Some of it stays in, but just goofy stuff like that, right? Eating uncooked sausages.
That's great. Well, I'll tell you what, man. I'm sure people tell you living the dream, and it's this era's version of watching that television host when we were young, right? This is the new outdoor job that everybody, I think, wants to have. And I think you've kind of you've set a benchmark for creating outdoor video content, and I think you're doing a great job. Keep up the good work. I really appreciate the time here on the show. And what can we look forward to here in the future? What do you got next?
Well, first off, thank you. I want to say, I know that I'm the luckiest guy. I'm living my dream every day, and I'm so blessed that people actually want to watch the videos, because you upload a video and I don't know, you think maybe no one's going to watch it, right? So just the fact that people are watching is cool. What's next? Things will probably slow down for a little bit. I got a couple bigger projects, a couple of films actually. My first moose hunt. Cool. I went to Texas for a week and did a bunch of bass fishing, so that'll be a longer format film as well. Things are probably going to slow down a little bit now because, I think a lot of the Midwest and a lot of people are just have their eyes set on open water, on springtime already. So a lot of the ice fishing content I'll film in the next month will actually be stockpiled for October, November, when people are getting revved up for ice fishing. So I'm going to be ice fishing pretty much every day for the next 3 weeks. But all that footage is going to be kind of waiting for next year. So I'm not sure exactly what my YouTube channel is going to look like in the next 6 months. In June, going to have my first child. So
that's right.
Baby on the way in June. So I don't know, thank you. I've already had the discussion with my wife, how do we feel about having, showing that in our content, having our baby boy part of it. And, I think I want to show the real struggles of being a parent and doing outdoor stuff. And, cause that's something I've always strived for on the channel, is to be relatable. And I know it's not going to be easy. I'm 110% excited, but there's going to be tough things. Like how do you bring a kid fishing? How do you bring a kid ice fishing and not ruin the sport for them? But obviously with an infant, they don't really know what's going on, but when they get older, like what does that look like? So, I'm ready to navigate that and share that with the people that watch the videos. So
it used to be a thing to film the birth. I think there needs to be a lot of slow-mo and get the drone. Can you get the drone into the hospital?
Yeah, we've made jokes about Sam wearing the Sam cam, about the GoPro. And she told me she wants me to take pictures, and I'm just like, I don't know. I'm just like, I feel like this is a sacred moment.
Yeah. That's
but
tough.
We'll see. Whatever, she has to carry the baby around for all those weeks. So whatever she wants me to do, I will do, and just try to be the best father possible. And if that means taking pictures, or if she just needs to squeeze my hand, then that's what'll happen. But I'm excited for the next chapter. It'll shake things up, but
it'll change the world, no doubt.
Yeah.
Well, man, again, appreciate the time. Keep up the good work, and thanks for being on the show. And good luck in June.
Thank you, guys.
Sporting Journal Radio is a division of Makaba LLC. If you've got a question, comment, or story idea for us, send us an email. Go to sportingjournalradio.com. While you're there, you can learn how to advertise on the show and visit our store for hats, hoodies, coffee mugs, and more. Go to sportingjournalradio.com.